Hello, and welcome to Marketing Solutions for Local Businesses, the podcast where you will discover all the latest and greatest digital marketing tools, tips, and strategies you will need to implement in order to stay ahead of your competition. If you are not getting the results you are looking for from your digital marketing efforts, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's the host of our show, the local business guy himself, Frank Deming.
Hello, everyone. This is Frank Deming, the local business guy, and welcome to another episode of Marketing Solutions for Local Businesses. What's the good word? Happy Wednesday, happy hump day. Hope all you are having a great week thus far. I know I am. Anywho, I'm super excited today. I don't know if you could tell from my voice, because this episode is actually an impromptu episode that I'm going to have, only because as a result of last week's episode, I've got a lot of inquiries about it. If you can recall, last week, I specifically talked about Google Ads for small businesses because one of my potential clients, who is now a client, congratulations to me. Anyway, who is now a client, he was a little concerned about using Google Ads for small. He said, he thinks that Google Ads are for the big boys, and I was able to convince him otherwise. So that was last week's episode. But because of that episode, people have been saying, well, what's better? Is it better for small businesses? Is it better for Google Ads? Is it better for Facebook ads? As you know, I'm a lead generation expert, and we focus a lot on lead generations for small businesses. So this episode, I am going to say, is I just want to give you a little like a bake-off, if you will. Google Ads versus Facebook ads. What's the best choice for your business? So it's going to give you some insight as to how, if you can decide whether or not what's for you, because it really depends. And rather than just say it depends, I'm going to give you the pros and cons of each. And then you guys can decide what's best for you. But before we move on with today's content at hand, and it's going to be a hot one, and I want to forewarn you, while I am giving you the housekeeping stuff, I want you to grab a notepad, a piece of or a piece of paper, and a pen that works, because you're going to want to take notes on this one. If you're driving, remember not to do that, but take note of this episode, download it, save it onto your device, and listen to it over and over again, because it's going to be a doozy. But that being said, let me give you some housekeeping stuff, and then we can get into the content. If you have any type of topic, see, I love when this happens, because it inspires others to do the same. I like when I'm providing you with content you want to listen to, not something that I think you want to listen to. So if there's any topic that any of you want to hear me talk about when it comes to digital marketing, please give us a call at 888-416-7752 or send us an email at info@lbmsllc.com, and we will definitely add that to a topic of discussion. So that's it for the housekeeping today. So let's talk a little bit about Google Ads versus Facebook ads. Both of them are, as you know, pay-per-click or PPC advertising strategies. And they both are very effective. What's better? The answer is it depends. And I'm going to get into that. Because both can be significant drivers for your business, and a lot of small businesses use both both at the same time. Mainly larger companies do it, okay? But I know some small companies that are dabbling in both and giving it maybe a 6 to 9 month try and see which one gives them the most qualified leads, if you will, and then they're dumping one of them. So that's a strategy if you have the money to do that. Pay per click can be an expensive marketing strategy. Nowhere near as expensive as TV advertising or even radio advertising, obviously. But in the digital game, it can be expensive, especially if you don't know what you're doing. And that's what we talked about a little bit with Google AdWords. And the same thing goes with Facebook ads. If you don't see, a lot of people think, oh, Facebook is going to have this AI and it's going to figure out who's my best audience and it's going to show them the ads. If it were that easy, everyone would be doing it. It's not that easy, and I can tell you that. So here, I'm not here to talk about what's easy, what's not. I'm here to give you some education on what platform is best for you. And I can't tell you that. So the best way of me doing it is by just giving you the pros and cons of both and then have you decide. Is that fair enough? Good. So let's go. What's the difference between the two? Here you go. First of all, what exactly are Google ads and Facebook ads, right? For those of you, I'm going to go down to basics here. So I'm sorry. You've certainly seen them both, right? When you jump on Facebook or Google or search on Google, you know that they're actually working because you see the ad right in front of you. On both cases, on Facebook, it's easily identified because you see sponsored underneath the person's page. And on Google, you know it's the first 4 searches on any search result. So basically, the major differences between the two is one is a paid search and the other is a paid social. Okay, so I want to focus this episode on how to use the best of both for you. Okay, so let's discuss Google Ads first and what a paid search is. So when it offers you a paid search, here's what you can see, which is pretty cool. Okay. You can have a Google search. That's a text ad. Those are the first 3 things that pop up when you first see it. So if you Google, say, landscaping in Edison, New Jersey, let's say. I'm in Edison, so I'm saying that for now. You're going to see, the first 4 images, not images. You're going to see the first 4 text ads that have that. So that's a Google search. But there are also YouTube ads that you can pop up on if you want to do some video ads. There is also the Google Display Network. That's when you want to pop up on the Google Network images. So if, let's say, Google owns a ton of stuff. Okay, so if you have so the best way of explaining it, there's the Google Network, and in the Google Network, there's a ton of highly trafficked websites that Google has the rights to allow their customers, you and I, promote their businesses on that network. So if the website pops up, so one of them is, say, NewYorkTimes.com, you can advertise on that because Google's giving them the rights. So they say, hey, you're part of my partner network. Give my advertisers a space, and then they compete based on price. And that's a pay-per-click thing that's called the Google Display Network. You get a ton of traffic that way, especially if it's a highly trafficked site. Google Shopping. That's the Google Shopping Network. That's when you type in a Google search for, let's say, a watch, and you see like four or five boxes go across your screen with prices and stuff. That's called the Google Shopping Network. There's Google Maps. Most of you know about that. The best way to pop up on Google Maps is by paying for that space. I mean, you can show up organically by doing a couple of things on the Google My Business page. That's another topic of conversation for another episode. But there's a paid way of going there as well. And then there's Google Play, which is the Google mobile platform that you can also have paid ads for if you want someone to download your app. So those are all the search criteria which for Google. For Facebook, on the other hand, remember, this is paid social. So they have the Facebook newsfeed, which you're familiar with. And then on the newsfeed, you'll see a couple of ads there that say sponsored underneath the business page. So you know that it's a paid thing. And as you know that Facebook owns Instagram. So there's also the Instagram feed. You've got the Facebook Marketplace where you can you can market your products. That is Facebook's answer to Google's shopping network, if you will. Then there's the Facebook video feeds. That is Facebook's answer to YouTube, right? Then there's the Facebook right column. That's I see Google doesn't have anything that's equivalent to that. I guess I would probably side it with the Google Maps, maybe. Then there's the Audience Network. Now, the Audience Network is just like the Google Display Network. So just like Google owns but they give rights to they partner up, put it that way, partner up with certain sites and give their advertisers rights on it. Facebook does the same thing. So there's the Audience Network. And then there's the Facebook Messenger, which Google does not have on their side. All right. So those are the high level comparison of the two. Okay. And where you can show up, whether it be on a search or it be, on the display ad, et cetera, et cetera. So now let's dive deep into today's content, because I want to really hone in on this, give you some comparisons, and based on the comparisons, you decide what's best for you. Okay, so here's comparison number one. Let's talk about audience size. See, both Google and Facebook have enormous reach. Google handles an estimated more than 5.8 billion searches every day. Okay? And Facebook has an estimated 1.73 billion daily active users. Okay? So, on Facebook, mobile advertising revenue makes up approximately 90% of the advertising revenue. Isn't that amazing? 90% of the advertising revenue is made up with mobile advertising. That's pretty interesting to me. So with that said, advertising on mobile certainly isn't an opportunity you should shy away from. Okay, because in all likelihood, your target audience is on both these platforms. So you can't determine the right fit for your business on audience size alone, okay? So instead, here's what you want to ask yourself. Is my target audience active on these networks? You also want to ask, is my product search oriented or social? That's a huge thing. I touched on that a little bit last week. If you want to listen to last week's episode, you're more than happy to go ahead and research. That was episode 72, I believe. Okay, so ask that. That's a very important. Both of these questions are important, but the number 2 is critical. Is my product search oriented or is it social? Okay, so even if Google has, say, 5.8 billion searches a day, it won't help you if no one is actually searching for your specific product. Okay? Are you releasing a new innovative product? Have people heard of what you offer? Product or service, actually. Is it an answer? If the answer is no, then Facebook is probably a better option for you in this case. In comparison number 1. So let's go to comparison number 2. Comparison number 2 is cost and ROI. This is very, very key. So I want you guys to really pay attention to this, okay? Cost is another important consideration. The average cost per click on Google Ads is $2.69. Okay, but this varies widely by industry. Okay, I'm going across the board. I've done my research across the board on every single niche out there. So on average, depending on the niche, you're spending $2.69 per click. Okay, so this is a paid. Remember, this is a paid search. Okay, e-commerce businesses can expect to pay about $1.16 per click, while let's say businesses in the legal industry, which a lot of my clients are, they spend a whopping $6.75 per click on average. So this is where I'm telling you there's a disparity between the two. All right. Now, to put the wide variation into perspective, the most expensive keyword on Google Ads is a keyword, say, insurance, which is now I'm glad I warned you before. So if you're driving, don't crash, okay? But for insurance on Google Ads, an average cost per click is about $54.91. So Facebook tends to be slightly cheaper per click, okay, than Google. A business in the apparel industry might pay as little as like 45 cents per click, which is awesome. Finance and insurance is the most expensive type of business to advertise on Facebook, just like Google. But the average cost per click on Facebook for that industry is $3.77. Huge savings. Okay. So let's just keep rolling here with this, because I want you guys to make an educated decision on what you want to do if you're in any of these niches. Okay. So the average cost per click varies not only by industry, but by placement. Okay. Very important. So there was a study made by AdEspresso. So AdEspresso is a Google partner. I'm okay. It's a Facebook partner. They do a lot of things with Facebook, especially if you want to cost out something in your niche and everything. So AdEspresso is a pretty good tool. It's a decent tool to use. I don't use it per se. I'll put a link on the show notes to see if you guys want to check it out. Because I have other tools that I use, but AdEspresso is a good tool. But they did a study, and it showed that in Instagram feed ads were about double the cost of Facebook placements. That's pretty interesting. And when I saw that, I was a little shocked. But anyway, although the average cost per click is typically more expensive on Google, I want you to keep in mind that people clicking your ads may be later in the buying cycle. You got to keep that in mind. See, Facebook is great for building awareness. Google can often be better at reaching users at the time that they're going to make that purchase decision. And that's what I found in the last 11 years that I've been running both. Okay. See, cost per click is only half of the equation. And I want to repeat that often on this episode because I want you to consider either platform depending on a lot of these things. So cost per click is only half of the equation. The benchmark to consider is cost per acquisition or cost per action. I like to say cost per acquisition, but a lot of if you go out in the industry, they don't use that term. They usually use cost per action. That's why I repeat it. So when I say cost per acquisition, please understand I mean cost per action, what everybody else says. I have my own lingo. So you want to consider cost per acquisition to determine if you're going to have a strong ROI on your campaign. So just like cost per click, cost per acquisition will vary by campaign. And it's basically dependent on how well targeted your ads are and if you are able to convert at a high rate. So don't let what may seem to be a high average cost per acquisition scare you off of pay per click. Okay, I don't want you to use that as a deterrent. So another great publication, WordStream, they compiled an average cost per acquisition by industry, and they provide a good benchmark for ad performances. So according to that study, the average cost per acquisition for Facebook ads across all industries is $18.68. That's the average cost per acquisition across multiple industries. And the industries they did was, beauty, consumer services, employment and job training, finance and insurance, fitness, home improvement, even B2B they did. So it's a pretty interesting study that they did. And I think you guys should check it out. So Google Ads came up higher than Facebook when it comes to cost per acquisition as well. Okay. So across all industries with Google AdWords, it came up to about $48.96 for search and $75.51 for display. So, and again, they had the same industries, e-commerce, employment services, finance and insurance, et cetera, et cetera. So, so it's a higher cost per click and a higher cost per acquisition on Google. But, again, it really does not, I beg you guys not to look at that and say, oh, I'm going to stay away from Google. It really bases on a lot of things. Again, let's continue listening to this and we can make that determination later. I don't want you to determine it based on dollar. I want you to determine it based on value. So let's go to comparison number 3, and that is buyer intent. So when it comes to buyer intent, Google ads almost always beat out Facebook ads. And this is I'm a huge advocate. Everyone who's been listening to the show knows how much of an advocate of Google ads I am. And this is one of my main reasons why. Okay, it's because of buyer intent. Consider what kind of business you have. Okay, do people tend to search for their product or services when they're ready to purchase? I'm going to give you an example. If a person's, say, air conditioner breaks, they immediately start searching for HVAC repair businesses. So search ads would place their business in front of the potential customer at the exact time that they have a need for the service. But on the other hand, that person isn't going to remember that HVAC business they saw on, say, Facebook 3 months ago in this scenario. So Google would be a clear winner in this case. Facebook ads also generally less effective at getting leads to convert quickly. And I have talked about this ad nauseum to a lot of people. People generally go to Facebook to relax and socialize, not to shop. So this platform is still incredibly useful but this platform is still incredibly useful for building your audience, though. And that's what I like to use both for. Remember I said earlier, there are a couple of my clients who are using both, and then this determining whether they want to keep one and dump it after 6 months, 6 to 9 months, or they continue doing both. Some of them continue doing both. I've got a few clients who continue to do both because of this reason what I'm talking about right now. Okay, the platform is great for building your audience. If you can create a sense of community in social media, people will be much more likely to buy when they have your service or product. When they need your service or product. So that said, if the objective of your campaign is to build brand awareness rather than immediate conversions, then Facebook is probably the best choice here. I mean, again, it all depends, but you got to consider buyer intent. Okay, so let's go to comparison number 4. So the comparison number 4 is targeting options. See, both Facebook and Google give you options for targeting and retargeting, if you will. So on both platforms, you can target by age, gender, location, income level, and a whole bunch of other stuff. I don't want to get into too much of the details of what you can do, but you can do all of this stuff. Facebook is hands down the winner, though, for advanced targeting options. I'll give Facebook that. And again, this I don't want to sound biased. Obviously, I'm a Google lover, and I don't want to sound biased, but I have to give Facebook the advantage on this side because when it comes down to targeting, they do a better job at Google than this. Okay. In addition to targeting options, though, in addition to the targeting options that I talked about, Facebook allows you to create an audience based on a large list of interests and behaviors they've done in the past, thanks to the wealth of information that they collect from the 2.6 billion monthly active users. So let's say you want to target parents. Check, easy. You can target parents. Want to target parents with, say, children of between the ages of 5 and 7? Check. Easy. Okay. Want to target, say, vegetarian parents with children of the ages, 5 to 7 and household income between, say, 75K and 99K? Done. You see, that's pretty easy. Now, it's harder to do it on Facebook now. It was easier before. You can say this is what the income has to be. There are other ways of doing it. I don't want to get into the details here, but you can do this on Facebook as well. Still easier on Facebook than on Google. Okay. So that's one thing I wanted to say. But you can easily finagle the system and say, I want household incomes between 75K and 99K. You can do it in Facebook, not as easy as it was before, but you can still do it easier than Google. Okay, that's my point there. You get the idea of the targeting power that it has. So with Facebook, you can be very specific with the audience. If your target audience is very niche, then Facebook ads is probably the best option for your business. That's if you have a very niche target audience. Facebook also offers a useful tool called lookalike audiences. Again, that's another topic for another episode because that can get far into the weeds. And I don't want to make this episode too long. It's already going longer than I normally talk, but I love it because this came from a question, and not just one question, a plethora of questions that came as a result of last week's call. Last week's episode. Anyway, so lookalike audiences is an awesome tool that you can use based on the audience that you build for yourself. And again, that's another topic for another episode at some point. Maybe I can put that down if I get enough requests on it after this week's call. After this week's episode, maybe I'll do it. All right, so let's go to comparison number 5. This is the last comparison before I go down to basically a closer conversation with you, which may be lengthy as well. Okay, so let's talk about ad formats. That's comparison number 5, number 1, ad formats. What about what about it? People are saying, well, what are you talking about ad formats? So for those of you who have not tinkled with any of these platforms, have no idea what I'm talking about. So let me go down a little deep here. This goes back to the question, what's the objective of your campaign? So you've certainly got more creativity on Facebook. I can vouch for that, which makes it much easier, a much better platform for building brand awareness and customer loyalty. I get it. If you use Google Ads, though, you have a small block of text to catch potential customers' eyes in the search engines. Okay, you can use ad extensions for additional text and information, but overall, your format is going to be limited to text in the search ads. So on Facebook, however, you can add a visual impact to your message by using image-based ads. Facebook also continues to roll out varying ad formats to avoid, say, ad fatigue. You can choose to use videos, images, carousel ads, and more to capture your audience's attention. If you are a e-commerce business, the visual component of Facebook should be a big consideration when choosing the platform that's right for you. So when it comes to ad formats, again, it's your prerogative which one you prefer. I think with Facebook, let me rephrase. With Google, you have to be a little bit more creative of how you position the ad, how you write. You have to be creative how you write the ad to draw attention. With Facebook, since they give you a huge ad block to write and then create an image that attracts people, you have more opportunity to attract the person. But again, it really depends on what your purpose is for advertising. And, if your service is more of a search service, you're just not, you got to build brand awareness first and all that. And if you do a comparison with that, your cost per click, as we said earlier, is less, and your cost per acquisition is less as well. But look at what you have to do to get to the point where where that is, because no one's actually looking for it. You're building brand awareness first, which is going to cost money. You have to build lookalike audiences, which is going to cost money. So you got to look at it like that. So I'm not leaning either way. I'm just giving you facts and you decide. So which platform should we choose? Here's a couple of things that I want to talk about here before we close. Which is better for your business? So if you want to decide for yourself, I want you to ask yourself a few key questions. Okay. Number one, consider the campaign goals. Is if it's focused on making more sales as quickly as possible? If so, Google Ads may be the best choice for you. If you're looking to expand brand recognition or, reach a wider audience on the other hand, Facebook ads may be the better choice for you. Okay. So remember, so that's number one. Next, take your client's industry into consideration. Okay. I'm sorry. Take your industry into consideration. I'm sorry. Take your industry into consideration. B2B or B2C, right? Businesses use Google Ads successfully. Okay. Facebook ads often work better for B2C businesses, especially those selling less expensive items. Since people are more likely to, do some impulse buying of products, they after being exposed to them a few times, that's why B2C works good on Facebook, very, very well on Facebook. However, even for B2B, there are going to be opportunities on Facebook ads, of course. There's a strategy though. And you have to employ some retargeting or remarketing, whichever way you want to use it, and lookalike audiences. Again, that's a little deeper. That's a little bit more advanced than what I want to go to here, because it's going to get a little confusing here unless we have a conversation about it in your particular business. So your client's audience also affects which your customers' audience is also affects which platform you should choose. Okay. Do people search for your business or service with intent to buy? Okay. If so, Google probably will give you the best result. Okay. And there are tools. We use tools to determine that for our clients. Okay. But if your target audience is trying to build, so if your target is to build an audience for your product, build awareness and build, just building a brand, if you will, then Facebook is probably better. But that's what it is. We gotta, anything that has to do intent to buying, whether it's buying a service or a product, you want to go on Google. This is why I love Google, because it's so much easier to attract that crowd than on Facebook. So you want to consider the stage of the buyer's journey, right? You're trying to target via these ads. See, AdWords is great for bottom of the funnel prospects. Okay. Facebook is usually best for attracting new top of the funnel prospects, if that makes sense. Okay. Now, finally, before I get on to the closing topic here, which is tracking your results. Before I get onto that, I want to I want you to consider your advertising budget and your level of technical skill. Okay, you got to understand that especially if you want to do this yourself, because a lot of people think, oh, I can do this myself because AI is going to help me. It's not that easy. I've been doing this for years, and it's changing every time. Do you have the money to invest in Google Ads, even if you're in a competitive industry? Okay, so you gotta, you have to consider advertising your technical budget, and do you have the money, right? Do you have the ability to create or outsource ads for to create, say, images or video for Facebook? So you want to discuss these types of questions before you embark on any of these tools. And I think that's the gist of it all, really. Yeah, Facebook, Google, which way to go? Yeah, that's the topic. But do you have the skill set to do it? Do you know someone with the skill set to do it? But I'm not talking about just skill set. I'm talking about you have to have someone who has a marketing mind and the skill set. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there. So I want to move on to the next topic, though, which is tracking your results. No matter what platform that you choose, tracking ROI is critical with a capital C. One way to automatically track your results is with our, we have a PPC dashboard template that I use when I have a client, and it really breaks everything down to perfection. It breaks it down to cost, conversions, cost per conversion, conversion rate, impressions, clicks, click-through rate, view-through conversions. It's a powerful tool. So measuring the success of your PPC campaigns can be difficult, especially when the data is spread across several advertising platforms. So using that dashboard that we provide, you can easily see where the most bang for your buck is being being done. Okay, so the biggest takeaway of today's episode: Google Ads and Facebook Ads are two excellent options for pay-per-click advertising, and in many cases, both platforms work best if used together. I've said that many times. You can use one for awareness, you can use one for traffic, and then you're gonna get results on both, so you're actually getting the best return on investment. So if you advertise on both, make sure that you're accurately tracking your campaign, okay, so that you can see the top performer. But just because one is performing better than the other does not mean that you take one away from the other. I think you use both of them for its strengths, and then you can, that's how you truly dominate. Okay. And this is not everything, but this is part of our omni-channel marketing packages. All right, guys. So I wanna end this episode with this, but before I do, I want to remind you guys, if you want to really, really dominate the market, I want to invite you guys, if whether you're a dentist, a lawyer, a chiropractor, doesn't matter. You want to dominate your niche market. I want to invite you guys to give us a call. 888-416-7752. I rarely do this on the show, but I feel that there's so many people that do not understand lead generation. that we need to educate as many small businesses as possible here in the US. So if you are struggling with either one of these platforms and you want to tinker with it and you want us to take a look at it, give us a call, 888-416-7752. And we will definitely schedule a call with you and look at your current marketing practices and fix it. With that, folks, I'm going to bid farewell to this episode. This has been Frank Deming, the local business guy. And I will see all of you next week. I will have a guest next week. We're going to get off of the digital geekness for 1 week. And we're going to be talking about how to protect your business legally. And that's very important, guys. So you don't want to miss that episode. I'm going to have a guest on here, and I'm sure she's going to knock your socks out. So until next week, take care, folks, and bye for now. Peace out.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Marketing Solutions for Local Businesses, the podcast where you will discover all the latest and greatest digital marketing tools, tips, and strategies you will need to implement in order to stay ahead of your competition. Don't forget, any links that were mentioned during the broadcast will be available to you in the show notes, so be sure to grab them while you have the chance. Incidentally, if you have any topics that you would like for us to discuss on the show, be sure to send an email to the email provided in the show notes, or click the Contact Us link and let us know what topic you would like us to help you with, and we'll be sure to add it to our schedule. If you would like for Frank and his team to look at your digital marketing presence and give you a free evaluation, simply click the Request a Free Consultation link in the show notes to get a hold of them. That being said, until our next episode, make it a successful digital marketing day. Peace out.